Alright, so due to the injector wiring being a little on the goofy side, what we're going to do is we're going to print some labels here. So as you can see, this one's already injector 4, or excuse me, injector 3. So we printed 3 and 6, so we're going to do 1, 2, 4, and 5. It's 1. Alright, so you guys are probably wondering why I put the labels on the injectors and not the coils. The real simple reason is that the coils can only go in one way in terms of wiring. The injectors, on the other hand, because we had to rotate the injectors a few different ways to clear everything, you could technically have enough wire to go back and forth. So that's why I wanted to label everything on this side. So as you can see, like here, if we go this route, which we're probably going to go for cylinder 6, you could technically take 6 and then plug it into 5. 5 to 6 may be a little bit harder, but it might even be doable. So we really want to just label these for whoever works on it next. This wire right here is the intake air temperature sensor. On the Honda stuff, it's on the intake manifold. We're going to relocate this sensor as well to over here, so we don't have to really label that, just because that the IAT connector is also kind of unique. It's a GM style connector, so it's going to be really hard to mix that up. So we're going to go ahead and we will get started on stripping all this down, just like what we did on the coils. As you can see, number 6 has already been partially stripped. Okay, so that's one side stripped, including the IAT sensor. So what we're going to do now is basically cut off all the factory installation stuff here to clean that all up, and then we're going to start measuring the injector wires on where they need to go. Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned this in the first video or not, but on these heat shrinks, I have not been like soldering them or anything like that. The reason is that these are double walled, so I don't know if it's gonna be able to pick up here. If you look really closely, and again, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see this, hopefully you can, but if you look really closely, there's actually, you can see a little bit of like adhesive looking stuff coming out of it, and that's what it means when it's double walled. So when it is doubled wall, you have a good twist connection here, you should be fine. You shouldn't have to solder it. You do really want to go back through though and give it a stress test. So just kind of tug on it really hard, you know, and it shouldn't go anywhere. So you really do you're going to want it to cool completely down to the touch first, just to make sure that it's good to go. If you tug on it while it's still hot, the adhesive hasn't set. So that's why number 6 here, as you guys saw, I just finished up, but there we go. So now we have injectors 6, 5, and 4 wired up. One thing that I do also want to mention is that we know the power wire is red and black because it's the same wire on each of these, and you necessarily do not have to have a match, but I always do for diagnostics purposes. So down the line, if someone needs to check for injector power or something like that, that they're gonna be able to look at this color, know that, hey, you know, the connector away from the retainer is the power wire. So that's just how I like to do it. Again, you don't really have to do that, but I just prefer to do it that way. And so, and here are our sweet labels. Those are, we're gonna go back and I'm gonna heat shrink, hit this with a little bit more heat. I think on this end, this one didn't fully shrink, but there you go. Okay, so the wires are done. Checking this side really quick here, giving a nice tug. This side was good. This side is good. So this one I actually had a problem with. And just real quickly, what it was this heat shrink, right? It's 3:1, meaning that it'll shrink down to 1/3 of its size. And on this one, I didn't have the right size heat shrink. I had one that was actually a little bit too small. And so when I went to go shrink it down, I noticed that at the very bottom here that, you know, it wasn't completely covered. So when you come into that situation where you have an issue with this 3:1, like the moment you see it, you've got to yank this stuff off. Otherwise you'll spend forever trying to remove it. So the moment that the adhesive has not cured, just rip it off. It sucks because you'll burn your fingers a little bit, but just rip it off. That way you don't have to do a ton more work. So ended up getting the right heat shrink, and as you can see, this is nice and tight. This side I just finished and it's nice and cool, so same deal, give it a tug. So there's our injector wiring and with our labels. And see, so what I was saying is that you can actually reach other cylinders due to the length, you know, so you just got to be careful. That's why you want to really label this. Other cars it's not a problem, but the NSX, everything is just so tight right here on the injectors, so that's why you want to do it. So the last thing that we got to do now is we're gonna cut these wires here, and then we'll extend it all the way out. We may wait on this. We've got to test fit the supercharger back on anyways, so we may hold off on that for now. The final thing would be to merge these wires together. So the injector control module used to sit here, and we just got to go end to end here. We'll get left over with 2 wires here that's just a ground, nothing crazy. And you know, we'll ground it back out, but we just got to make these 2 connections somehow, and then that'll be that for the injectors. Alrighty, so I finished up the coil wiring. So here's the ground for the front bank, ground for rear bank, so it's all cleaned up. Obviously I've got to cut the zip ties off of here, but not a big deal. Injectors were already done, so the only thing that's left on this is the ignition coil wiring, in terms of the bypassing the ignition control module. So the ignition control module connected these 2 right here, and what we've done, so what we're doing is we're connecting the